We are live. Welcome, everyone, and blessed Mabon. Today is the actual autumnal equinox. Today it's part 2 of Hearth, Kitchen, and Green Witchcraft. We are going to be doing kitchen witchcraft tonight. This happens to be one of my personal favorites. I kind of consider myself mostly a kitchen witch. Kitchen witchcraft centers around the home, the family, and nurturing. Kitchen witchcraft is an everyday hands-on practice using simple ingredients and methods, and is an amazingly easy way to incorporate ritual and or the spiritual and or magic into your everyday routine. The art and practice comes from within yourself, your intentions, your energy, the way you think, feel, and navigate the kitchen. That's what determines what your practice is. Where are we? Slide 2, we need slide 3. I'm sorry, I forgot we have slides. Kitchen witchcraft is found in many cultures and has been around the world and has been around for centuries. Historically, it's been the women who have been considered the ones who did the cooking and the nursing, the nurturing of hearth and home. But besides cooking, they often knew how to heal wounds, deliver babies, identify herbs to create tinctures and tonics and other curatives, as well as how to honor the deities, and much more. Kitchen witches may have also been called wise women, midwives, or the matriarch, and were often revered as the holy women or leaders of their community. Today's kitchen witch, however, can be of any age, gender, background, but they are still the ones that others come to for guidance, comfort, healing, as well as recipes. Slide 4. Slide 4. Well, I figure for me, recipes should be communal. I believe in sharing and let everyone do to the recipe general what they will, because we all have different tastes. I don't mind giving my recipes. A kitchen witch does most of her magic in the kitchen. Go figure. Using food, herbs, spices, cooking tools to bring an intention to fruition. Of course, you don't have to be a kitchen witch to enjoy the magic of kitchen witchery. After all, a witch, any witch, is someone who uses metaphysical practices, rituals, spells, and intentions to affect change and or channel energy. In other words, someone who creates magic. And you don't have to have fancy dedicated tools or items or accessories to do so. Let me show you what I use in my kitchen. Most of what I'm going to tell you tonight is my practice, which I'm happy to share. And it's a guideline for anybody else who wants to get into kitchen witchery, or just, dabble for whatever. My robes. You have to have the proper attire to do ritual. This is my serious cooking ritual robe. My only regret is it does not have a pocket, but I've had it for a while. It was a gift from my mother, so it is very sacred to me. This is what I use when I'm doing my serious cooking. Now, if I'm entertaining, most likely all of my food is already prepared. So I would only be heating and serving and whatnot. for those occasions, this is my ritual robe. And just for fun. And this one's great because if I get splashes, it's a material that I can just wipe off, nothing absorbs. So it's a lot of fun. Now, as far as the altar, and we're going to talk about the altar later, but the tools that you use for a ritual or magic are pretty simple. You need a wand, an athame, and or bolin, and intentions. That's pretty much the most you need. Here are my favorite wands. My stockpot wand. My grains, and it's a little yellow because I use turmeric quite a lot in my grains. And this was a gift from someone who did woodworking. She's an artist, and it's one of my favorite wands. And this is, I have not cooked with this wand because it's just so beautiful. I will use this wand to cast my circle if I'm casting a circle. And that's what it's dedicated to. And I do cast my circle quite often. I always have my athame with me, maybe not on me, but I always keep it with me, again, in case I want to cast a circle or do something with it. This I do not take to food. For that, I have my bolin. This is one of my favorite bolins. I have several, but this is the one I use the most. This is the one that I chop and cut and do the work. And then, of course, there's this bolin, which is very handy for lots of things. And I have another one, a poultry cutter, which is because I like to cut my poultry up. And these are the tools that I use along with my stove and whatever cauldron, otherwise known as pot,
Yep.
and pan that I'm using. And that's really all you need for a well-stocked, a well-prepared kitchen, altar, and working space. Slide 5, please. Whether you're a self-taught solo practitioner like myself, or a studied member of a coven, or anywhere in between, kitchen witchcraft provides perspective and connection, not just to those gathered around the table or the magic that you are doing, but also to the natural world, the seasons, the plants and animals that give their lives as food to eat as well. A real key component of kitchen witchcraft is being able to identify where, when, and how a food is sourced, which knowing this increases your mindfulness. And applying mindfulness to food can reconnect you to the ingredients and give you a deeper connection to the earth. Using and eating local, seasonal foods assures you are getting the very best from nature. And of course, growing your own is even better. While tonight's discussion will be focused mostly on the cooking aspect, kitchen witchcraft isn't just about cooking. There are a myriad of activities and chores that take place in the kitchen that are instrumental to cooking, cleaning, organizing, inventory control, and supply, just to name a few. And applying mindfulness, intention, and knowledge to all of these things can turn any of your mundane chores into a ritual. Of course, it goes without saying, before you embark on doing magic in the kitchen, or anywhere for that matter, you want to be sure to cleanse the area, physically and metaphysically, in order to eliminate the negative energies that tend to accumulate in our universe. Having a well-stocked pantry, both the cold pantry and the dry, assures you will be prepared to feed, nurture, heal, or for just about any situation that comes along. Cooking is alchemy. The combining of different elements, ingredients in this case, to create something new and delicious and nutritious. That is magic. I'm not talking about just preparing a meal, although that in itself is magical, but I'm talking about the alchemy of magic. By being knowledgeable and aware of each ingredient's properties and uses, you will be able to know what ingredients are best suited to your intentions, or which intentions you should have for the ingredients you have on hand. Having knowledge of the energetic properties of the food helps to set intentions that resonate with those properties. For example, say you wanted a cup of spiced chai tea. Your knowledge of the ingredients, cinnamon, cloves, and ginger, oh, and water. I forgot to put that in here, but and water. Tells you the spices are associated with prosperity. And water is just the conduit to let things flow to and from. With that knowledge, you can create a very quick ritual and spell by being mindful of the ingredients and using the intention and visualization of prosperity as you brew the tea, as you pour the tea, as you sip the tea. You can bring all of those intentions along with that. And then you have performed kitchen witchcraft. For my practice, I have 3 types of cooking. What I call regular cooking, spell cooking, and compound spell cooking. Sounds really tough, not so bad. Regular cooking. This includes the everyday mundane cooking and meal prep necessary to put meals on the table, as well as cooking for special occasions and celebratory dinners. Whether I'm making a mundane everyday meal just for us, or cooking for my cats, which I do often, or preparing a community feast, I can insert magic by simply acknowledging the ingredients with gratitude, setting an intention, even if it's only, I make this food to be nutritious and delicious, and or recite, sing an incantation, a prayer, a poem, a song, anything that resonates with you that you like to do to help get your energy flowing. That's what you can do as you're cooking, as you're preparing and cooking. Spell cooking. This kind of cooking for me is usually something that comes from a need or a desire. For me, it includes creating a small ritual around whatever the intention is. It can be used for meals or other things of ingestion, such as chai tea, as well as for creating things like tinctures and tonics, cleaning solutions, candles, soaps, sachets, talismans. We can do all of that in the kitchen. Compound spell cooking. This cooking for me is very ritualistic. It involves spells with contrary intentions, but the same desired outcome. A good example of this is chicken soup. Yeah. If I'm making chicken soup because someone is sick with a cold, a flu, whatever, I'm probably going to start with banishing. I want to get rid of the nasty infection and all of its side effects, all the symptoms. I also am going to want to invoke relief, nutrition, and healing for whomever it is I'm preparing this for. I personally only use compound cooking for healing and healthful outcomes, but I am quite sure you can do it for many other things. Basically, what I call a compound cooking is basically creating a multi-purpose spell recipe with contrary intentions stirred in. Many ingredients have multiple associations, some of them seemingly contrary. When doing compound spell cooking, knowing the ingredients, associations, and energetic vibrations helps me to know in what order to add them, what to invoke from them or invoke into the spell recipe. Again, my example of chicken soup. I know all the ingredients have nutritional value. That's a given. Many of them have more than one association to the intentions I have for a spell. Like parsley. I use a lot of parsley in my soup. I use a lot of parsley. It's good. It's a good ingredient. But it's known as a blood cleanser, which would be associated with the cleansing and or banishing first part of the spell. It is also known to aid digestion, is high in vitamin C, and considered a blood purifier. Now, cleansing and purification, just to be sure, is different. You need both. All of these associations are associated to all of the associations of parsley are associated with the other three intentions: relief, nutrition, and healing. In the case of parsley, it is associated to 4 of the 4 intentions of my spell: banishing, relief, nutrition, healing. Parsley addresses all of that. I'll do the same with each ingredient that I'm using. I'll decide what the association is and to each of my intention. And however many associations to my intentions there are, that's how much I will divide the ingredient up and add it to the soup with each intention, because I'm not going to add everything all at once. It's going to be one thing at a time. And as I invoke my intention, I'm going to add the ingredient. And I'll do that with all the ingredients. I generally add the cleansing and banishing intentions and their ingredients first, because you want to get rid of crap before you give it good stuff. And if I'm really diligent and mindful, I'll even make sure that I stir them widdershins as I add them to the pot, counterclockwise, as one would do for any cleansing or banishing. The rest of the ingredients are pretty much going to go in clockwise, docile. And then once you get cooking, it doesn't matter. As far as I'm concerned. I hope this gives you an idea how you can add ritual and spell casting to your everyday cooking and chores. You may already be incorporating intentions into your cooking without realizing it. So be mindful of what you say and think, as well as the ingredients and utensils you use. And the property of your utensils will also contribute to whatever it is you're trying to achieve. So, know what your things are made of and how they interact with what you're using with your other ingredients. We're going to talk about the kitchen deities and spirits and kitchen altars and creating sacred space. Slide 7, please. Many cultures recognize the hearth and home the hearth or home deities, a few of which are most frequently invited into the kitchen. Not all home deities are in the kitchen, and not all kitchen deities are throughout the home. But there are a few of the if I look up, I lose my place. Okay, many cultures. Okay, we did that. Slide 8.
There we go.
Probably the best known goddess of the kitchen is Bridget, the Celtic goddess of the flame and keeper of the sacred hearth. Ceridwen, do I pronounce that right? Ceridwen, okay. She, from the Welsh tradition, is the protector of the cauldron. Cauldrons are symbols of transformation. Kitchen witches today recognize pots and pans as cauldrons where we transform raw ingredients into nourishing meals. Slide 9. Juno, the Roman goddess of home and family, is often honored as a kitchen goddess. Adisha and Babisha, Roman goddesses of food and drink, are also quite often invoked in the kitchen. Slide 10. Annapurna, the Hindu goddess of food and nourishment, is a manifestation of the goddess Parvati. Slide 11. You can also connect with your ancestors or choose to honor or call on nature spirits, fairies, beloved dead, angels, or any deity you work with by inviting them into your kitchen through images, objects, and intentions. The altar is a focal point of energies and magical workings. They're usually permanent, but in the kitchen, sometimes that's not possible, especially if space is tight or it's a shared space. But you can use a portable altar that you can put up for magic and take down when you're finished. The purpose of the altar is not only to have a place to channel and focus energy, but to connect to the spiritual self and remind you of the sacred nature of the space you're in. A kitchen altar can be as large or as small as you need it to be, and should be set up in a space that is easy to see while cooking and preparing food. This can be a windowsill, top of the stove or counter, inside a cabinet that you can open up when you need to, a shelf, or even a box, like I said, that contains sacred objects. And as with any altar, you can add or remove items to change the energies and focus the seasons or a whim, with the change of the seasons or a whim. The only difference between a kitchen altar and other altars is that the kitchen witch does most of her magic near rather than on the altar. I disagree with that a little bit, but we'll get to that. That's why it's important the altar be visible from any working area in the kitchen. In my kitchen, my altar is somewhat scattered. I do consider my stove, part of my altar. It's my working altar. But there's no space for me to put objects. It's a cushion stove. There's no backsplash. There's no place to put anything other than what I'm cooking. So I have representations of the elements, and I have my chef's knife, my acme, my favorite spoons. The bottom line is you can make magic anywhere and with any tools or objects you have. Now, my kitchen, I took pictures. Anyway, and I did that today because I thought I'm going to talk about my kitchen, but I'll show you pictures so that you can see it. And I don't know if we can get them added to the video when we post it. If I send them to
There,
you?
there is actually a way.
Okay, I
There
wasn't
is a
sure,
way.
but at any rate, you know, my stove is my working altar. So are my counters, by the way. There's not a lot of room on either for symbolism, but I do have a lot of display areas, spaces, way up, out of reach, because I have cats. So you might say it's a combination of all, what I have is a combination of altar and shrine, and we'll get into the differences of that next presentation. But when I show you the photos, you'll see I have representations of many things that one would want as part of their kitchen altar, or really just about any altar. I have animal spirits and guides, ancestral presence, and representation of all the elements. In my kitchen, I have statues or images of, in the north, a bear, a giraffe, and a seahorse, and a pig. In the east, I have a fish, a worm, some human figures and skulls. In the south, I have another fish, a squirrel, a swan, cats, and frogs. And from inside my kitchen through the doorway, you could see one of my flamingos. It's not actually in the kitchen, but it is visible from the kitchen. On the west, I have a donkey, cats and frogs, and an El Salvadorian owl, and another owl, and a fish. It's quite the collection, quite the menagerie.
I want to go to your house.
And for my ancestral presence, I have things from both my mother and my mother-in-law. From my mom, I have the donkey, was from my mom, and a clown is there also. And when I look at those images, I know that, you know, I'll just all of a sudden look and it's like, I love that little donkey. It's such a pleasant little animal. And the clown, and he's holding these glass balloons. And it's really the balloons that make me smile. But I wouldn't have the balloons if it wasn't for the clown. So, and my mother-in-law, Flossie, I have the stone owl that I brought to Mavon. And, oh, I have a crystal pitcher for water. And Henry the Baker cookie jar, which is one of my favorite pieces in the kitchen, as well as many of her pots and pans and other cooking items. My mother-in-law was a cook, my mother was not. And for the elements, I have, for north, I have wooden cutting boards and other utensils. In the east, I have my refrigerator. Now you might think, oh, refrigerator, shouldn't that go into the west? Well, think about it. The food is kept cold by cold air. Yes. It's cold air. Now, granted, you need the ice in there, but I mean, it's still it's the air. And of course, the aromas that my kitchen almost always has. And for the south, I have the stove and oven and candles. And for the west, I have pitchers, both crystal and copper and pottery and plastic. And other vessels for holding all kinds of liquids. These representations that I have, and I didn't even realize it until I was like going through this presentation earlier this week. And I'm thinking, altar, well, I know I have my offering, I have a copper offering bowl, which I have a plant sitting in. And I have a few other things that you would think are your typical altar objects. But then I started looking around and it's like, wait a minute, I've got all these animal spirits and guides, and I've got my ancestors, and it just dawned on me, this is just the way my kitchen fell in place. And like I said, not everything is exactly where you would think it's associated. But let's face it, kitchens are, kitchen chaos is often the norm in a kitchen. So for me, if I can keep the chaos in the peripheral,
Amen.
so my working space, my working altar is clean and ready to go. That makes me happy. That makes everything easier to work and navigate. And I can view all of my items because it's not a big kitchen. My stove is here. I've got there. I've got there. The most I have to do is that. And that's pretty much it. So I thank you. And I hope that get inspired to do a little cooking. Is there any questions? Does anybody have anything, any comments? Anybody want to share their cooking?
If you look through that window, you'll see my kitchen.
Mhm.
Those black trivets belong to my Aunt Mary. That was her collection. Her son gave them to me
Mhm.
when she passed.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
It's-
that's up and out of the way. It does,
beautiful.
it's not where you're working, but
Right,
it is
but
there.
it's there, and it's a reminder. It brings you so much closer to the other world and gets you out of the mundane. You know, I when I'm in the kitchen, I'm happy. Even when I'm pissed. That's when chopping comes. I chop. Yeah. Sometimes that's why I say be careful what you think,
Right.
what you say, because you can get really carried away when you're angry when chopping. And
then you lose your finger.
Because then you really
Yeah.
put yourself into what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I've had people like suggest that when you bake bread, you could knead all your and then you're gonna
You started, that's not how you finished
Right.
it. You really made me think about my own kitchen and as you were describing your kitchen and where you had everything, I'm like thinking about my own kitchen. I'm like, my gosh, my stove is in the same place. My refrigerator is in the same place. I have items there that honestly I didn't even think were metaphysical, but are in the proper places.
well,
They just fell there.
mine are not in the that's why I say, not everything is
Well, more or less,
because I did not build the house.
Right.
So my stove, I would think traditionally I would want it in the south because that's its element, that's its place in the world. But it's in the north. But that's okay.
Mine's in the south.
That's okay. I know what it is. I know the intention.
It's out somewhere.
It doesn't have to be physically there as long as I know it. I can put it there in my all I have to do is think about it.
That's right. You got the power. You got the power.
Stephanie has a question. She wanted to know what's a good place to learn about food properties.
Oh, Google.
Google.
Let me tell you, just there are, but
So there's
I didn't write
the
that
Kitchen
down.
Witches cookbook.
There's
Two of them. They're
There's
really good.
there's two that are really good, but there is a site, and I'll get it and we'll post it on Facebook or the website or whatever.
Yeah.
There is a site that you can go to, and they have a myriad of information. And I meant to write it down. Oh, herb company. You go there looking for herbs, and they tell you more than you would ever think there could be to know about herbs. And that's a really good website. And there's another website that really gives you a lot of occult type of information. And
Yeah, there's one, the White Goddess or the,
I've been there. They have some interesting stuff. But I wrote them down in my notes and I didn't transfer.
Patricia Telesco, that's who wrote it. Kitchen Witches Cookbook.
Okay.
That's very good. The indexes on that are very good.
Yeah.
Well, for me, like when I had to switch from gluten to gluten-free when I was in college. And I just remember thinking to myself, I am not giving up my baking.
Right.
It was like such a thing. But it's interesting because with gluten-free baking, because it's usually denser, it doesn't have that gluten to make it go floof.
Mhm.
You have to adapt your stirring technique.
Mhm.
And I've actually gotten into the habit, even though I don't really work with Caradwin on a regular basis, of invoking her while I do the
Right.
spinning. Because like one of her powers is, that ability to spin the cauldron. And so I've just found the
Yeah,
habit of invoking her.
I do that all the time. Spin the bowl while you're stirring. That really just makes it much faster. But as far as the kneading, like you say, it's really good to.
put what you want to eat in there.
But no,
And your
you can
intentions.
heat it up really good. But then you counter it with your
When you let it go,
Yeah,
when you
Oh.
flatten it,
right.
that's
When you,
No,
because it'll rise up and
It
then
rises,
you
you
punch
punch
it
it
down
down. Punch
and
it down.
start again.
correct.
I guess they
And you
can't do it
finish
that
it with the-
But I
gluten-free
guess
bread. That
now
I
you've gotten rid of all
And
the
now
sugar
it's
and now
nice
you
and
start
soft
over.
like a baby's bottom, you give it some love.
That's right.
Put it in
Oh, yeah.
there.
Exactly, that's how you do it.
As a matter of fact, I baked a challah
Oh,
over the weekend for Rosh Hashanah.
nice.
I have pictures of that too. I said I have
We'll
pictures
put them
of.
all on the
Yeah.
road too, on the.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I will make a montage at the end of the video, so if you're watching this video, just stay tuned because there's going to be a montage of the photos as she described them.
Okay,
There you go.
this is the challah that I baked. This is before it went into the oven.
Wow, very nice.
Ooh.
Very nice. Hold
Is
it,
it?
yeah.
I don't know if you
Well,
can
it's
see
all-
it.
Yeah, no, it's all brighted out.
Okay. And this is when it came out of the oven.
That's
wow,
gorgeous.
beautiful.
That is gorgeous. That was perfect.
Yeah, it came out very well. I make one every year for Rosh Hashanah. My Jewish friends that we celebrate all the holidays now. And I know better, but the first thing they invited us to Passover dinner,
You brought leavened bread.
I baked a challah. And as I walked in, it just didn't, dawn on me that it's Passover because I'm not Jewish. But I do know that they don't eat bread during Passover. And it wasn't until I walked through the door and it's like, holy shit, this is Passover. And one time I made a challah that was this big. I don't know
Oh, wow.
how I got that big, but it did. I thought I doubled the recipe, but perhaps I more than doubled the recipe. It pushed my oven door open.
Oh, wow.
I kid you not. It came out that big. I have pictures of that, but I couldn't find them. I think they're on Steve's old phone. He said, I'll look for it, he'll send them to me, but
Making bread is the only thing that it's sort of intimidating for me that I have. I love baking and I entertain a lot. I can't say that I'm a cook because I don't make anything from my own, but everything that I get magazines from cooking magazines and I see what kind of party I'm having. So therefore I start getting all the recipes for that and then I bake whatever I see. And I've been now I'm making more food because I figure that the group that we have, these people like to eat more than the sweet, so I have to not bake as much. And but bread is something that I don't know, maybe the recipe sometimes it's like, oh, you need this and you need that.
well,
I don't have it, and even the Dutch oven for cooking. I thought it was this grand thing, which actually is just a pot.
It's a pot.
See what it smells like. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, just put it in the oven. Yeah. It's a pot with a lid that can go in the oven. That's it.
yeah, with bread is intimidating to most people because there's many steps. And it is more of a chemistry program than,
It
than
might be
anything else.
Humid or.
Right, there's,
Yeah.
there's
2 degrees.
It's an alchemical process beyond the ken of the average human.
it can be intimidating, but I like working with my hands. I don't bake cookies or cakes. I've baked cheesecakes in my adult life, but I tried baking cakes and cookies. They don't come, they taste fine, but they don't look like cakes and cookies. I'm not too big on baking pastry, but breads, I like to bake breads. I bake challah, I bake semolina bread. I'm gonna start trying gluten-free so that I can bring bread
Yeah,
to our
there-
gatherings. But
It's a different thing with gluten.
yeah,
I mostly do quick breads, like
Mhm.
my banana breads, mango breads, pumpkin breads.
yeah, they're fun and easy. But
I also learned to do all my cooking when I was living in the studio without an oven and using the crock pot.
Oh,
crock
And I
pot
learned
is-
how to bake bread in a crock pot.
it's very good. It's a good way to do it. I've never done it.
It takes a little experimenting, but I figured it out, especially once I got the little mini loaf pans that could fit in the crock pot. I
Yeah.
squeezed them together.
literally, it's a
Like
little
a
oven.
small
You think
layer
about it.
of water, because I had this idea that I really wanted to make banana bread, but I had no oven. And in my head, I'm like, well, if only I had a fire, I could probably make one in a fire because you put it underneath the coals of the fire. And I'm like, wait, if I just need long, low heat under a fire, I have a crock pot.
Right.
Yeah,
Perfect.
seriously,
Yeah.
it's like a,
Little bitty
for
oven.
sure, it's like a little
Yeah.
oven.
Yeah, so
That's
it's like,
That's brilliant, man.
So,
That is
yeah.
brilliant.
And most of the quick breads, you only need like 325, you can cook it low and
Yeah.
slow, it's not.
Yeah.
not gonna-
it was like 4 hours in the crock pot, 4 to 5 hours in the crock pot,
Oh, that's
in
not
the
bad.
little mini loaf pans, so they would fit.
Amazing idea, that's
Yeah.
great.
A great idea. But one thing that you said that keeps swimming in my head. Parsley has 4 correspondences, so you do 4.
I
Portions?
will add, yes, however much parsley I'm going to use, I will separate it into 4
And if
portions.
carrots is 2, you'll put 1, 2, and if potatoes are 3, 1, 2,
Right.
3.
Exactly.
So you put it in the pot by the intentions, not by the
Ingredients.
ingredient.
Right,
Okay.
it goes in by the intention.
Mhm.
Because it's all gonna cook, it doesn't matter how you
No,
put it in.
no,
Right, right.
So,
Everybody in Zoom,
With the
get
exception-
that, there'll be a test later.
sauteing onions and garlic, but
Right.
I can make intentions for onions and garlic for anyone. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
they're superfoods. You can associate,
They go with everything,
they can go with anything, so.
even cheesecake.
But
I may not, but we can try.
Caramel onion.
they-
cheesecake.
I thought you were professional. I wanna see that.
Yeah, and I'll do that with each ingredient.
Interesting.
Except for the chicken, because like I said, the chicken is nourishing. It's like the chicken goes in whenever I feel like it. And however I feel like it, sometimes I'll cut it up.
Mhm.
Well, actually, usually I cut it up, and put
Yeah.
it in pieces. So I can add it, I don't add it to the vanishing. But I'll add it to, and then I'll add it with each intention as I go. And like I said, you can do that with chicken soup. If you want to make a love potion, you can do the same kind of thing, make a tomato soup. Tomato bisque soup, and you can get all of the spices and seasonings, all the herbs that you would want for drawing love and
Mhm.
whatever.
Passion.
Tomatoes are,
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
did that one Lupercalia here, we had the spicy hot chocolate.
yeah, that's it, yeah. You get a lot
I
of things
used
going there.
almond milk and, so you just look at your recipe and then Google all the correspondences and you'll see the spell you're doing.
Right. And it's like it's really that easy. And it's with Google, finding out what each thing is good for is super easy. And if you don't know, think about it. How bad can a carrot be? What would you want? What would you do if you didn't know? What would you think a carrot was good for? And there you go.
A, it's orange, so it makes you happy.
You know,
make it-
whatever you know about it, that's
Good for the vision, if you wanna see something, get it.
good for your
Get
vision.
it
Vision, you
carrot
gotta,
in.
and you cook it, make a carrot soup, and you can get really creative with this stuff. And
Grandma,
it really just makes
Ginger.
it makes it sacred. It makes it magic.
Mhm.
And that's what we witches are all about.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yes.
makes you think Grandma
Oh, that's
Betty might
beautiful.
have been a closeted witch, because whenever she would make strawberry or pecan pies, and you'll pick everything fresh, she would sing the whole time. She would sing to the ground, she would sing to the air.
Mhm.
I mean, I
She was a
never saw
natural.
anything like it, yeah.
Even if she wasn't, even
Just
if she
so
wasn't
happy.
practicing consciously, she was a natural.
And if you didn't matter how upset you were about anything, you took one slice of that pie and all the problems you had, you're just gone.
Well-
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, singing
fantastic.
is another form of magic, and so, yeah, it pairs very nicely with kitchen magic
Yeah.
in my experience too.
Absolutely. I mean, I always have music on. I
Yeah,
don't sing because that might ruin the magic. But I always have music and I usually dance a little.
yeah.
Yep, I'll just, and while I stir the pot. I've even done double stirring, but yeah, you can have so much fun. When I cook for my cats, I cook usually about once a month. And I realized, why am I not creating stuff for them? Why am I just throwing the stuff in the cauldron and cooking it up? It's like, no. So this last week I cooked, made 3 pounds of chicken, 3 pounds of ground chicken, 2 pounds of chicken thighs, bone and skin on. And usually I do 1 pound to 1.5 pounds of hearts and 1 pound to 1.5 pounds of liver. They didn't have any hearts this time, so I did about 2 3/4 pounds liver. And I used to do a whole lot more with eggs and salmon and sardines, and I didn't do it this time. And they are actually seem to like it even more. So I'm like but I also did a little more ritual and magic when I cooked.
Cats can taste that.
And it's like I
Cats know.
have a feeling
They saw you do it.
They were judging you in secret the entire time you're doing this.
That's why I was like, oh my God, it's because I'm dealing with raw chickens, especially the livers, my Silhouette, my black cat, and Oreo, the black and white one. He's constantly back and forth, and she's just sitting there. Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause she's grounding and he's gathering the energy and bringing it back.
Gets excited, and he's like, "Are we?" I'm like, and he pants. So if I'm running in, my goodness, are we gonna get it? Is it ready? Is it ready? It's like, no. And then he reaches up and he tries to pull my towel down. They'll have to be fast. It's like, no. And if I say no, then he goes out. And 5 minutes later, he comes running in. Is it ready yet? Is it ready yet? Is it ready?
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Kids.
But
They're such toddlers.
yeah, the 2-year-olds, eternal 2-year-olds.
Mhm.
All right, any more questions or comments on Zoom land?
Not really. Stephanie said the carrot was a good root for grounding.
Oh, yeah.
That's good to know. That's
And-
right.
and-
Yeah, shape, yeah, everything,
If
yeah.
you cut it like in coins and cook it with dill, Wouldn't that bring you money?
Yeah.
Yes.
Good, yeah,
Yeah, you know, it looks slightly goldish.
yeah.
Some honey. Honey.
Yeah,
Honey.
what's the rune for money to pay?
Fayou.
Yeah,
Mhm.
carve that at each point.
Oh, root parents, guys.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
By
What
the
a great
way,
idea.
this spoon came from that lovely lady over here. And this is the one I use to cast my circles.
Yes, that's my servings.
Came from
From Alba. That's my
Who's the other two?
Carl made that.
I came
I bought one of their spoons.
Yeah.
The condoms.
Yes,
Yeah.
but
You got it from-
I just.
No, I do cook the ones I have, which I'm anymore, because my wooden spoons.
They
I
take a
I
beating.
have a little chaos in my kitchen.
That's-
that's why- that's
It's
why
not
I
a
cook
kitchen
it.
without kids.
Right.
And once the fire, things turn on fire, because especially I notice wood, wood on fire. It
Well burned.
melts,
Yeah, plastic melts, that's why I don't use that
silicone
anymore.
melts as well.
Some secret fire there.
Serious chaos there. Melting the silicone.
Yeah.
Well, when you try to cook and make a meal for about 30 people and
Yeah,
including
thanks.
And
kids,
you're like, "Fluffy!"
and then you have two kids running around plus the dog
Yeah.
that also wants was the
Attention.
food. Things are forgotten and stuff never got
Things
cut
happen.
off and
It
things happen.
happens.
There's
Thanks, thank you very much.
Thank
That was
you.
wonderful.
That was wonderful.
All right, stay tuned for the montage.
Yes.